Okay, let's unpack this.
Huh.
Today, we're diving into the life of Patty Hearst,
Oh, Patty Hearst.
heiress to the Hearst media empire, who was kidnapped in 1974 by the Symbionese Liberation Army,
The SLA.
a radical left-wing group.
Absolutely.
We've got a fascinating stack of sources for you.
Oh, cool.
Articles, excerpts from books, and even some FBI files.
Wow.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The central question we're exploring is whether Patty Hearst was a victim of intense coercion
Right.
or a willing participant in the SLA's crimes.
Huge question.
To understand the saga of Patty Hearst,
Mm-hmm.
we need to start with some background.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to remember, she wasn't just some random college student.
Yeah,
She was
I
the
got-
granddaughter of William Randolph Hearst,
Right.
one of the most powerful media figures in American history.
Huge.
The Hearst family wielded immense political and financial influence.
Absolutely.
And Patty, a 19-year-old student at UC Berkeley at the time,
Mhm.
was thrust into the spotlight when she was kidnapped from her apartment in 1974.
Really thrust into the spotlight.
And the group that kidnapped her,
Yeah.
the Symbionese Liberation Army, or SLA,
Right.
they weren't exactly known for peaceful protests.
No. Yeah.
They were a small but radical left-wing group
Mm-hmm.
with a violent agenda.
Yeah,
The SLA was a strange mix.
it was.
They were founded by an escaped convict named Donald DeFreeze,
Donald DeFreeze.
who called himself General Field Marshal Sink.
Oh, wow.
They had this bizarre mix of black liberationists,
Right.
ex-convicts, and some radicalized middle-class college students.
Yeah, a real mix.
Their ideology was this strange blend of Marxism, black power, and anti-capitalism.
A strange blend.
Before the Hearst kidnapping, they became infamous for their violence.
Yeah.
They actually claimed responsibility for the assassination of Marcus Foster,
Oh, wow.
who was the first black superintendent of schools in Oakland.
Right.
That assassination really shook California.
It-
The SLA saw Foster as a tool of the establishment.
That's interesting.
This, despite his work to improve education in Oakland's black community,
Mm-hmm.
he advocated for student ID cards to try to combat truancy.
Yeah.
And they saw that as, a way to control the population.
Oh, wow.
This act of violence really highlighted the group's volatile nature
Right.
and willingness to use deadly force to further their goals.
It did.
So on February 4, 1974,
Okay.
3 SLA members break into Patty's apartment.
They do.
They beat up her fiancé
Oh, gosh.
and throw her in the trunk of a car.
Wow.
It was a brazen act,
It was.
and it instantly captivated the nation.
Mm.
Here was the granddaughter of one of the wealthiest and most
Mhm.
influential men in America,
Absolutely.
abducted by this ragtag group of revolutionaries.
Yeah.
The media went into a frenzy.
Of course.
And then the SLA started releasing these audio tapes with Patty's voice on them.
Okay.
Initially, they were demanding millions of dollars in ransom, as well as food giveaways to the poor.
Right.
Her family really tried to comply.
Mm-hmm.
They donated millions to food programs.
Yeah.
But the SLA,
Yeah.
they weren't satisfied.
No.
They denounced the food giveaway
Really?
and actually called the Hearst family pigs.
Oh, wow.
They even accused them of exploiting the situation to get good press.
Oh, that's interesting.
It seems pretty clear that they wanted more than just money.
Yeah, it does.
What's really interesting here is how the SLA's demands shifted.
Okay.
They wanted to use Patty as a platform for their socialist agenda.
Interesting.
And then comes the real shocker.
Okay.
About 2 months after the kidnapping, a new audio tape emerges.
All right.
This time, Patty announces that she's joined the SLA
What?
and taken the revolutionary name Tania.
Tania.
She actually got that name from Che Guevara's comrade, Katie Tamara Bunker Biter.
Oh, wow.
This was the moment that truly catapulted the case into the realm of the surreal.
It did.
The Tania tape became a sensation.
Yeah.
Was she brainwashed?
Right.
Was she coerced?
Right.
Or had she truly embraced the SLA's ideology?
Wow.
It became a national obsession.
It did.
And then, a month later, there's even more dramatic proof of her transformation.
Oh.
Surveillance video captures Patty wielding an M1 carbine during a bank robbery in San Francisco.
She's robbing a bank.
She wasn't just a bystander.
No.
She was actively participating.
Wow.
That bank robbery, on April 15, 1974, at the Hibernia Bank,
No.
became the defining image of Patty Hearst's time with the SLA.
It did.
Here's this young woman who was a college student just months earlier.
Right.
Now she's shouting orders at bank customers
Yeah.
and brandishing a weapon.
Oh, my God.
It solidified the perception of her as a radicalized revolutionary in the public eye.
It did.
Then, just a month later, there was another robbery
Another one.
at Mel's Sporting Goods in Los Angeles,
Okay.
where witnesses said she actually fired her weapon to help an SLA member get away.
She fired a weapon.
This incident, on May 16th, added yet another layer of complexity to her story. Witnesses testify that she seemed not just a participant,
Right.
but a willing one,
Okay.
going so far as to shoot at the store manager to cover William Harris's escape.
Wow.
Things came to a head that same month.
They did.
The group was holed up in a safe house in South Central Los Angeles when the LAPD surrounded the building.
Okay.
The whole thing led to a dramatic shootout that was broadcast live on TV.
Oh, wow.
The images of that shootout were seared into the national consciousness.
They were.
6 SLA members, including DeFreeze, died in the inferno.
Right.
But Patty, along with William and Emily Harris, had escaped
They did.
and remained on the run.
They did.
The hunt for them became a national priority.
Absolutely.
The public was on the edge of their seats until she was finally captured in September 1975 in San Francisco.
Captured.
She was put on trial for bank robbery and the use of a firearm during a felony.
Right.
It's here where the question of grifter or gifted really takes center stage.
Yeah.
Her trial became this battleground of expert opinions about psychology,
Oh, wow.
coercion, and free will.
It did.
Her defense argued that she was a victim of coercive persuasion and brainwashing. They argued that the SLA had essentially broken her down and remade her in their image.
Oh, wow.
They even brought in a very prominent psychiatrist, Louis Jolyon West, to testify.
Oh, wow.
He argued that she was suffering from Stockholm Syndrome,
Stockholm Syndrome.
a condition where hostages develop positive feelings towards their captors.
Right.
But the prosecution wasn't buying it.
No.
They pointed to her actions during the robberies,
Okay.
her pronouncements on the tapes, and her radical stance after her arrest as evidence that she was a willing participant in the SLA's crimes.
Okay.
They argued that she had made a conscious choice to join the SLA,
Right.
to embrace their ideology and their violence.
Yeah.
They portrayed her as someone who had abandoned her privileged life and chosen to fight for a revolutionary cause.
They did.
And ultimately, the jury sided with the prosecution.
They did.
In March of 1976, after a highly publicized trial,
Yeah.
the jury found Patty Hearst guilty of both charges.
Wow.
The judge sentenced her to 35 years, which was later reduced to 7,
35 years.
which a lot of people found incredibly harsh.
Yeah.
Considering the extreme circumstances of her kidnapping,
For sure.
there was this intense public debate.
There was.
Was she a victim or a criminal,
Right.
a pawn or a player?
Mm-hmm.
And how much agency did she truly have in her actions while under the control of the SLA?
Exactly.
This deep dive into the life of Patty Hearst raises some truly fascinating questions about the nature of coercion,
It does.
the power of ideology,
Mm-hmm.
and the role of the media in shaping public perception.
Absolutely.
Indeed,
Yeah.
her story continues to fascinate and divide people, even decades later.
It does.
All right, so we've laid out the basic timeline.
Right.
A wealthy heiress gets kidnapped by a radical group
Yeah.
and seemingly transforms into Tania, the revolutionary bank robber.
Mm-hmm.
But the question remains,
It's-
was she a grifter or was she gifted?
Right.
To get closer to an answer,
Yeah.
we need to look at the psychology of the case.
Okay.
Because Patty Hearst's mental state during her time with the SLA is really at the core of everything.
Absolutely. It is.
And this is where things get especially complicated.
Yeah.
Because how do you separate the impact of trauma from genuine belief?
Right.
How do you disentangle coercion from free will? These are questions that psychologists and legal experts have been debating for decades.
They have.
And the Patty Hearst case is sort of a touchstone in that debate.
It is.
One of the central arguments made by Hearst's defense team
Okay.
was that she experienced what's known as Stockholm Syndrome.
Stockholm Syndrome.
It's that psychological phenomenon where hostages start to identify with their captors
Right.
and even develop positive feelings toward them.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
And it's important to remember the context here.
Yeah.
Patty Hearst was held captive for weeks,
Right.
isolated, subjected to physical and psychological abuse.
Yeah.
She was kept in a closet for days,
Yeah.
blindfolded,
Right.
and repeatedly threatened with death.
Oh, gosh.
Her captors controlled every aspect of her life,
Yep.
what she ate, what she slept, what she read.
Right.
That kind of intense, prolonged trauma can have a profound impact on anyone's psyche.
Absolutely.
And the SLA,
Yeah.
they weren't just common criminals.
No.
They had this whole ideology, this revolutionary vision of overthrowing the capitalist system.
Right.
They were constantly indoctrinating her,
Yeah.
feeding her their propaganda, forcing her to participate in their activities.
Wow.
They even gave her a new name,
Right.
Tania,
Tania.
and assigned her a role in their twisted revolutionary play.
Yeah.
It was almost like a forced conversion experience.
Right, wasn't it?
So when you look at the tapes and see her participating in the robberies,
Yeah.
shouting revolutionary slogans, is that really Patty Hearst?
Right.
Or is it Tania, a persona created by the SLA through manipulation and coercion?
Right, exactly.
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And honestly, there's no easy answer.
No.
Because even after her capture, even during her trial, she continued to express radical views.
She did.
She continued to identify with the SLA's goals.
She did.
That's what made this case so incredibly perplexing for everyone involved.
Absolutely
It
perplexing.
really blurred the lines between victim and perpetrator.
Yeah.
Because if she was truly brainwashed,
Right.
if she was acting under duress, then can she be held accountable for her actions?
Right.
And on the other hand,
Right.
if she was a willing participant,
Yeah.
if she genuinely embraced the SLA's ideology and their tactics,
Right.
then it challenges our very notion of what it means to be a victim.
It does.
This is exactly why her trial became such a media spectacle.
Of course it was.
It wasn't just about the legal arguments.
And-
It was about trying to understand the human psyche under extreme pressure.
Yeah.
It was about trying to define the boundaries of responsibility when someone is forced into unthinkable acts.
Right.
And of course, the fact that she was a Hearst,
Yeah.
an heiress to this immense fortune, this media dynasty, made it all the more captivating.
It did.
It was a story that touched on class privilege politics and the anxieties of a nation grappling with social upheaval and political extremism.
It was.
And even after the trial,
Yeah.
even after her conviction, the debate continued
It did.
because while she was ultimately found guilty,
Right.
her sentence was later commuted by President Carter,
Okay.
and she was eventually pardoned by President Clinton.
Right.
And those decisions,
Yeah.
the commutation and the pardon, reflect the ongoing ambiguity of the case.
They do.
They acknowledge the extraordinary circumstances of her kidnapping and the possibility that her actions were not entirely of her own free will.
Right.
Do you think President Clinton's pardon ultimately helped or hindered public understanding of the complexities of this case?
That's a good question. It's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
The pardon was a recognition
Right.
of the extraordinary circumstances of her case
Yeah.
and the possibility
Right.
that her actions were not entirely of her own free will.
Okay.
On the other hand,
Yeah.
it also reignited the debate
It did.
about personal responsibility and whether she should have been held accountable for the crimes committed
Yeah.
while she was with the SLA.
Yeah.
In a way, it
Right.
reflects the duality of the whole situation.
It does.
Yeah.
Her story has been revisited
It has.
and reinterpreted so many times over the years. Documentaries,
Right.
movies,
Yeah.
even a John Waters film.
Wow.
It seems like each generation finds something new to grapple with
It does.
in the Patty Hearst saga. What do you think it is about her story that continues to fascinate us?
I think it's the inherent ambiguity of it all.
Yeah.
We're drawn to stories that challenge our easy assumptions
Yeah.
about good and evil, guilt and innocence.
Right.
And her story is a tapestry of contradictions.
It is.
She's a wealthy heiress,
Right.
a kidnap victim,
Yeah.
a bank robber,
Right.
a mother,
Yeah.
a writer. She defies simple labels.
She does.
Was she a pawn?
Yeah.
Was she a player?
Right.
Or was she something in between? I think that's the question that
Yeah.
keeps people coming back to her story, trying to figure it out.
And how do you think we would perceive her story today in the age of social media
Right.
and instant judgment?
Yeah.
Would she be a viral sensation?
Good question.
A hashtag, a meme?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
The lines between reality and perception are
Right.
even blurrier now than they were in the 1970s. Right.
But I think her story would still resonate, perhaps even more so.
Okay.
We're still grappling
Right.
with the same questions about identity,
Yeah.
about the power of media,
Yeah.
about the dark side of human nature.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the question we keep coming back to, grifter or gifted.
Right.
Was she a mastermind or was she manipulated?
Right. Yeah.
In the age of social media, would people be quicker to judge, to label her one way or the other? Or would we see a more nuanced conversation emerge?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
So after this deep dive, where are we left?
Yeah.
Grifter or gifted? Victim or villain?
It seems like there's no easy answer.
It doesn't.
And maybe that's the point.
Right.
Maybe the most important takeaway is that sometimes the most compelling stories are those that resist simple answers.
Okay.
Those that force us to confront
the uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world we live in.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Her story is a cautionary tale.
It is.
About the dangers of extremism. A testament to the human capacity for survival.
Yeah.
And ultimately, a reminder that sometimes the most fascinating figures are those who refuse to fit neatly into our preconceived notions.
Absolutely.
What's fascinating
Yeah.
is that even now, decades later, her story continues to spark debate, to inspire new interpretations, and to challenge our assumptions about guilt, innocence, and the very nature of free will.
It does.
What do you think? Was Patty Hearst a victim of circumstance?
Right.
Or a cunning manipulator?
Yeah.
Was she swept up in events beyond her control? Or did she make choices that led her down a path of radicalization?
Right.
It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
And one that continues to fascinate and divide us.
It does.